Today, let's talk about running the Forgotten Realms in 5th edition. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before. Welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about actually trying to run the Forgotten Realms in 5th edition. It's a little bit of a follow-up to the video where I basically said that there's nothing majorly wrong with using the Forgotten Realms as the base campaign setting. That the major problems, well, the problems, largely stem from the presentation and not the setting. At least that's the argument I made. So, following up on that, let's suppose, upon hearing that, you're like, hey, this guy might have a point. I would like to run the Forgotten Realms in 5th edition, but I'd like to go somewhere other than the damn Sword Coast. What resources are potentially at my disposal to help me with this? Alright, so there's a handful of things. It's going to be a fairly short video. But I am going to save the best one for last because it's an interesting little thing I picked up on about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know how many people know this. So for all I know, there's 1,000 videos about that particular topic, but when we get to it, hopefully it's a surprise. So resource number one, if you don't want to track down older books, there is the Forgotten Realms wiki, which I believe it's just, the FR wiki, and it is pretty knowledgeable. Now, some things haven't been updated to 5th edition because there's just not updates for 5th edition for some things. So the last available information is back in 4th edition, and I think a lot of the stuff has a comprehensive history. So it'll go back to what it was in its first published mention back in 1st or 2nd edition, and kind of walk you forward through the timeline. So that can help you learn about other regions in the realms, other personalities, other events. Now, since it's a wiki, you're doing a whole lot of, well, I'm going to search for one thing, and oh, that sounds interesting, and click and take you elsewhere. I mean, you all know how wikis work, I hope. But it's not quite as useful unless you're either A, willing to go down the rabbit hole and see how far it goes. Spoiler alert, there's no bottom. Or B, you have some ideas already and you know what you want to search for. And then, pick up some stray ideas along the way. So, that's one option for you. Another site is called Candlekeep, and that is named for the massive library within the realms. And a lot of the posters there are very knowledgeable. A number of the posters there have worked on official Realms products. So to say they're knowledgeable is an understatement. And I believe via an intermediary, Ed Greenwood does still take and answer questions there. Now it's a forum, so you've got to figure out how to navigate everything. But they're fairly welcoming, and yeah, overall, there's a lot of information there. They have a stash of supplements that were made for some products but never released that have been posted there. So there's some interesting stuff there to be had. But anyway, it's overall it's a good resource, and I have to double check, but I believe some of the people there still organize a get-together at Gen Con whereas some of the people who've actually worked on the realms, going back to the TSR days, actually are able to just show up and take some questions, tell some stories. I've been to a couple of those, and I found them very entertaining. The only reason I stopped going is because it's kind of late, typically on the Saturday night of Gen Con, and the people with me just didn't want to sit there, and so that's the part that sucks about going with other people, is when things are at odd hours, and you're the only one interested, it doesn't always work out. So that would be another resource if they still do that, and you happen to be going to Gen Con. You can probably get a lot of your questions answered right there. And at least one year I went, Ed Greenwood was there too, which is pretty cool. So the fourth, assuming I'm going to count that as the second, third resource here, fourth resource is older books. And in particular, I would look into the third and probably fourth edition campaign books. I don't know if second edition is collected as a single campaign book or if it's a series of books, because I don't own a whole lot of second edition material. I've never played second edition. I do own some material because I do find it fascinating, and I always mine it for ideas. But I just haven't played that particular version of D&D. Like I said, those two campaign books. Now, the fourth edition one, it's controversial because of the spell plague and upending chunks of the setting. But the campaign setting itself, the book, gives you what's going on in basically every little last nook and cranny in the realms, at least on the continent of Faerun, and a little bit in the Moonshays. I don't remember if Maztica got mentioned or not. So you've got a lot of updated material, and you don't have to use it all. Like I said in the other video, find the things that interest you and incorporate them. Or if you find a place that, like, man, this place sounds like it was interesting before the spell plague blew it up, well, now you've got a place to start searching back at the wiki. Okay. Plus, it also has a giant fold out. If you get a complete copy, it has a big fold out map of the Forgotten Realms, the main continent of Faerun. So that'll really help you get an idea of scale and distance, even though that's changed over the maps. From what I understand, the gap between areas is now smaller than it used to be because Ed Greenwood gave it more realistic distances that actually take time to travel. And just over time, those distances have kind of shrunk. So keep that in mind. Then there are two other realms-specific campaign books for 4th edition. Now, one's for Neverwinter, so if you're sick of the Sword Coast, that one might not be for you. However, if you want to stick with the Sword Coast, there's a lot of interesting stuff you can use in there. And then the other is from Menzo Baranzan, which is the Drow city underground where Dritz originated. And it's also in the north, but it's not along the Sword Coast. It's inland somewhere. And like I said, deep underground. So you have those, and then the 3rd edition campaign setting book, describes a lot. And then there's a whole host of 3rd edition books that go into different areas of the realms, if you want to start going down that rabbit hole. And then the final place I would look is the DM's Guild. Now, the DM's Guild, I have not bought any material from the DM's Guild, so I can't speak to the quality. But I do know that some of the people who are established Realms publishers, like Ed Greenwood, sell material on the DM's Guild. So that stuff, you can take that to the bank, okay? And if you search for his stuff in particular, you will notice, and this is why I saved this one for last, because I don't know how many people have noticed this. A number of those things, if you check the preview for the PDF, the preview is the entire thing. Okay, and it could be 50 pages. And instead of previewing just like 5 or 10 pages, the whole thing is in there. Just has the word preview stamped on it, which you can easily figure out what's underneath the word preview. So, and someone even, I didn't even notice until I was reading the comments, and one of the questions was, hey, wait a minute, is the entire thing in the preview? And the guy that's helping Ed Greenwood write them was like, well, yeah, we wanted you to know what you were getting before you bought it. So, if you like it, buy it. If you don't. Well, whenever you bring up the preview, you can save the PDF. Now, if you do like it, you should throw them some money. I think that's the honorable thing to do here. However, just as a glancing around to get you some ideas to know which direction to go in, if you're not planning on just literally taking the whole PDF and I'm just going to use this for free in my game, I would like to believe that, I don't see where they would have a huge problem with that. It's part of the reason that it's up there like that. However, again, I do encourage you, if you're going to use it, to actually, throw some money their way, because, those things were not free to make. They did take time and effort. Now, that's not on everything Ed Greenwood has on there. There are certain things, like he has one book about Fae. That only has 6 or 7 pages, I think. But that's also because that one is available as a print-on-demand book. And if I ever buy any of them, that's probably the one I'm going to buy. Because it sounds like he actually has a video here on YouTube where he kind of talks about that, about the Thayans, and I think a lot of what he talked about made it into that book. So it sounded pretty interesting, actually describing the day-to-day affairs of Thay and how things actually function, instead of just from the cackling mad Solkiers at the top of the pyramid. Well, it's Thay, so it's probably a cigarette, but anyway. So, those are places I would look for information. And then again, like I said in the other video, take the parts you like, mix them up however you want, and then use that, throw in stuff that you've made yourself, throw in stuff from other settings if you want to. You don't have to, don't be a slave to canon, because among other reasons, it's impossible to be so, okay? You cannot run a canon game in any of the settings, so don't try. So anyway, that's where I would look if I were you, and let me know in the comments if you guys know of any other places to look, if any of those places are helpful for you to look, if you think I'm just crazy, any of those things. I appreciate all the comments. But other than that, it's YouTube, like, subscribe, all those things. But otherwise, folks, talk to you later.